Introduction. In fact, Asia's ugliest unsolved issue has been the steady terrible relations among India and Pakistan. The underlying foundations of emergencies stretch out to the disastrous parcel of the two nations in 1947 when British government left the locale following a 250 years time of principle described by abuse and gap and standard overcome strategies. The British realm's disruptive arrangements which were gone for making break among Hindu and Muslims so as to weaken any potential firm contradicting power. The British set these two gatherings against each other, and in the long-run Muslim alliance was compelled to request the production of independent state to be called Pakistan, since it felt its interests would not be spoken to in the Hindu lion's share India. On August 15, 1947, subsequent to decision the sub-mainland the British surrendered the power. India and Pakistan wound up two sovereign countries. Segment made a few issues like restoration and evacuee property, sharing of benefits and joining of royal states and so forth. The disagreement about the increase of August states, Junagadh, Hyderabad and Kashmir in under 5 months after autonomy. Two nations were very nearly war over this issue. The inconvenience in India-Pakistan relations start in 1947 when Hindu Maharaja needed to acquiesce against the desires of lion's share of its populace. This question is harmed well from which contamination has spread to each other. Purpose of contact between two nations. The significance of Kashmir to Pakistan can scarcely be overstated. On the off chance that in Delhi Kashmir question speaks to an issue of eminence or standard in Rawalpindi, it would seem that the immeasurably significant issue. Pre-independence era, before 1947, nearly from the specific beginnings of written history, India needed to confront a long progression of remote intrusions. Being pulled into business capability of India, it was 17th century that the Europeans out of the blue started taking enthusiasm on extensive scale. The most essential early participants were the Portuguese, the Dutch, the French and the British. None of them come to India to settle here. They were altogether pulled in by the tales of India's breathtaking riches and fortune and by the perfection of her fabricated products, which had huge market in Europe. The British additionally first time come to India as exchanging organization like different Europeans. The organization which last come to known as East India Organization. The organization expanded its capacity and impact in the Indian sub-mainland. The circumstance decayed further after the passing of Mughal ruler Aurangzeb in 1707. The realm started to break down and focal specialists debilitated. The organization which could now change the Nawab at its will turn into the accepted sovereign power. The establishment of British standard in India was an altogether novel wonder for her. Each past decision class, climate it has initially originated from outside or was indigenous, had acknowledged the auxiliary solidarity of India's social and economic life and endeavoured to fit into it. It had progressed towards becoming Indianite and had struck roots in the dirt of the nation. The new rulers were completely extraordinary, with their base somewhere else. Among them and normal Indian there was huge and unbridgeable inlet, a distinction in convention, in standpoint, in salary and method for living. There were two universes, the universe of British authorities and the universe of Indian millions, and there was nothing basic between them aside from a typical aversion for one another. The East India Company's triumph in the skirmish of Plessis in 1757 and the Battle of Buxar in 1764 gave them political authority over the eastern conditions of Bengal and Bihar, and established the framework of the British Empire in India. Over next 100 years a few regions were added to.